Topic here is the 9/11 hijackers, the last 2 years. So we're going to be looking at some of these individuals once again, and some of it might be repeat information, so you might want to be able to cross-reference with some of the other slideshows and screencasts. Anyway, we're going to first start off with Hani Hajor. Spent the 90s in the U.S. trying to obtain a pilot license. Broken English. Part of the reason why Bin Laden would select Hani Hajor was because of his pilot's license. He has some experience. So this is in the 90s. Hani Hajor spent some time in the United States. These two individuals, Minhart Hazmi, arrived in the United States around January 2000. They are both Saudi nationals. They have traveled and fought together in Bosnia, and these individuals spend, for the most part, from 2000 all the way up to 9/11 attacks, time in the United States. It would later be reported that these individuals would travel freely to different parts of the world without any sort of, controls. They're able to get back into the country. And there's also a reference to the CIA having an understanding that these individuals, not only did they leave the United States, but that they were in the United States and they had attended a high-level Al-Qaeda meeting. However, the CIA did not want to give that information over to the FBI because they felt that if the FBI was aware, the FBI would start investigating both of them and then probably arrest these individuals on domestic terrorism. And you probably don't want that to happen if you're the CIA, because you want to know, where did they go, who was at the meeting where they went, and what connection do those individuals have to Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. So while the CIA is trying to get global terrorists, the FBI is trying to get domestic terrorists. And at the end, it seems to be a missed opportunity. If the CIA handed that information over to the FBI, who knows what would have happened. This is an interesting individual here because the question comes up about his role with Saudi Arabia, whether or not Saudi Arabia has any hand in the 9/11 attacks. And you come to find out that this individual here is somebody who's acting as somebody's helping some of the individuals that are showing up. So Minhart Hazmi, these individuals would obtain support. And if they're receiving support from Omar, that would basically mean then that Saudi Arabia has some sort of involvement in what would later be the 9/11 attacks. I really haven't followed his story lately, but I do know there was a reference in January of 2020, that was looking at the role of Saudi Arabia in the 9/11 attacks. So we've talked extensively already about the Hamburg cell, Shihi, Ada, and Jara. These three individuals that lived in Germany for a small amount of time as they were pursuing their education. And as exchange students, these individuals were familiar with Western customs. Here we see a picture of Zahid Jara at the flight school where he was training to be a pilot. Jara leaves 5 times traveling out the U.S. and is able to make it back into the country. So again, it brings up the point, how are these individuals able to travel? One of the things in the 9/11 Commission report that they find is that, when you have your passport and it has a record of everywhere you went, if you were to report this thing lost, then you would wait whatever amount of time, let's say 3 months, and you would get a new one, and then that new one would be clean. It would have no record of where you traveled. So if you had traveled to like Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, anywhere, Afghanistan, all of those travels would be erased. And so they kind of learned that particular trick. And that's one of the loopholes that are changed after the 9/11 attack. These are some letters from ASL to Zaid Jara. Keep in mind, they have a rocky relationship. He seems to disappear for a significant amount of time, and she's looking for her husband. And she seems to be contacting him in the U.S., and this seems to be problematic because if she's constantly contacting him, the question is whether or not that's going to raise a flag of some kind, and link who he knows with some of the people that are on the list of being suspected of working with terrorist organizations. We've already talked about Ramzi al-Shib, who was not allowed to get into the United States, which was why Hani Hajor was selected. We haven't said much about Zakaris Masawi. Zakaris Masawi was arrested in August before the 9/11 attacks, and there is a belief that his arrest, basically, he's in the flight school, and he's just kind of nasty to the instructor. And this tips off the instructor, contacts the authorities. The authorities look at his immigration. They figure out that he's not allowed to be here. So they don't arrest him on terrorist charges, but they are concerned about his presence in the United States. And that is what prompts bin Laden to panic, where he starts to put pressure on Muhammad Atta to say, you really need to step up this attack. And then Muhammad Atta gives him the 2 branches and a lollipop as coded language for when the 9/11 attacks would take place. December of 2000, Hani Hajor arrives. So there is a belief that for Flight 93, which is the flight that has 4 people on board. Every other plane, Flight 11, 175, and 77, had 5 hijackers. So there's a belief that maybe Al-Shiv, Zakir Masawi were supposed to be one of the other hijackers or the pilots to make it a 5-man team aboard all 4 flights. Again, Jara, Jara's family questioning his wife. They're trying to find him, and this is in March 2001. That seems to be problematic for blowing the cover of this whole operation. Daily routine for pilots. This is in a 9/11 Commission report. There's this weird section that pretty much just looks at some of the things that these people were doing. How do they have access to any of this information? Through interviews, interrogations, and they also eventually release photographs of these individuals through security cameras at like Walmart and a pizzeria and at an ATM. I always like that Jara begins taking karate lessons. All right, let's hope he winds up at Cobra Kai or Miyagi-Do. Who knows? Anyway, spring of 2001, the Muscle Hijackers are selected. These individuals primarily are coming from Saudi Arabia, which again, the link, Saudi Arabia, so many of the hijackers are from Saudi Arabia, and that becomes a potential problem. A little bit on the Saudi Arabian muscle hijackers here. Keep in mind that they are following the Wahhab interpretation of Islam, which is the idea about the purification of the religion. They're trying to fit in with dress and norms of America, and that the Saudi Arabian passport is easier to obtain. So it's easier to go from Saudi Arabia to the United States because of the United States treaty agreements and alliance with Saudi Arabia historically. We already know that martyrdom videos are made before 9/11. July 8, 2001, Atta travels to Spain to discuss the final plans. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and bin Laden want the date moved up out of fear. Atta returns. Atta and Zaid Jarrah have tension because Muhammad Atta felt that Zaid Jarrah was not going to follow through with the mission. Keep in mind that Jarrah seemed to be the outsider from Lebanon. This individual was raised in a Christian family and later converted. Zakir Masawi, we already talked about this individual. While he is in the flight school, he really has no care for landing or takeoff. He pretty much just wants to know how to fly the plane. And these are some of the things that tip off the instructors where they contact, the authorities to start looking at this individual. 3 weeks, the 3rd week of August, the final message from Mahada to Al-Shib, giving the date 9/11, 2 branches and a lollipop. Video footage of 9/11 hijackers at a Pizza Hut. We already talked about Jara getting pulled over. The letter that Jara writes to his wife prior to the 9/11 mission going down. Let's see, the FAA watch list versus the State Department watch list. So it's interesting that the State Department has 61,000 people, names on file, in comparison to the FAA, which only has 12. So the significance there is, let's just say if Muhammad Atta and Zaid Jarrah are on the State Department watch list, it wouldn't matter. They would have to also be here. So we know that there are 19 hijackers. Even if all 12 were on the FAA watch list, you would still get, my math is off, you would still get 7. So again, it's just looking at the security risks that missed opportunities. And that's it. Think about these questions: what mistakes were made, what's frustrating, and what is your reaction to the information.